Wondering what the F has happened to your body and your life? You're in the right place, my friend. Welcome to Season 3 of Transforming 45, where we dive into the incredible stories of how brilliant humans are navigating the midlife squeeze with courage, passion, and a healthy dose of humor. Don't miss out on any of our heart-led episodes. Hit the subscribe button, leave a 5-star review, and if you're inspired, share an episode you love with a friend. It means more to me than I can express that you're choosing to spend time here and sharing our message of midlife revolution. So let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Transforming 45. Listeners, when I do this introduction, you might wonder, Lisa, this feels like a bit of a departure from what your usual topics are. And it is not at all. It is actually deeply connected to midlife transformation in so many ways. And I am really excited for all of you to hear this conversation. So I'm thrilled to welcome Carroll Dey to the show. As an enthusiastic, energetic, and experienced sales specialist, she traveled the world marketing and selling fine wines, which we also could talk about, for 20 very successful years. And now she proudly brings those skills to her business and has amassed a multi-million-dollar portfolio in real estate sales since 1998. Carroll, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here today. I know you and I have had some off-camera conversations. Real estate is a massive part of my life right now, and I think it is an underrepresented conversation in transformation, in the midlife transition space, because as you and I talked about earlier, it impacts us. Physical space is not just physical space. It is a representation of who we are. So I'm so glad you are here today. Thank you for being here.
Lisa, thank you for having me. And, we were talking about divine timing before we came on the air. And it is no mistake that I am in your life as you go through this huge real estate transformation. Just your audience, I don't know how much you've shared with them, but Lisa is buying and selling a home, and her children have gone off to college, and her whole life is turning into a new chapter. And that's really the serendipitous way I was led to you, was that we're supposed to be talking right now.
No, you keep going, please. This is my favorite thing.
I will tell your audience, I have been in the real estate business for a remarkable amount of time because it's gone so fast. Since 1998, it's so shocking to me. But I work with TTR Sotheby's International Real Estate in Washington, D.C. And what I love about what I do is being able to help people. Everybody has different taste in a house and in life. It doesn't matter whether you're buying clothes or a car. Everyone knows what they like. So it's not my job to say, if Lisa wants to buy a house with a purple door and yellow shutters, I'm like, okay, sure. But it's my job is to make that dream come true. And that's really what is at the stage of my life, in this chapter of my life, is really my passion, is not just in real estate, but with what I'm doing in the other facets of my life, is really trying to help people. And I will take the paradigm shift into what drew us together. And that is completely changed in my 40s. And I know that that's what's happening for you now, and what, with your guidance, we're going to share with your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this becomes the perfect place for me to ask this question. So, Carroll, tell us, who are you and how did life introduce you to this version of you?
Thank you, Lisa. Here I'm holding my nose and jumping in now. I was led to Lisa because I did a mastery, beyond the mastery, with a man by the name of Bob Berg last August. And through that, I was introduced to a woman who's a podcast agent, and she lives in Cyprus. Her name is Noemi. It was because the people in that mastery said to me after I told my story, "You have turned tragedy into triumph." What does that look like? It's arduous, it's circuitous, and it's made me the person I am. And I think that's really the jumping off point with your audience, or the jumping on point,
Mhm.
because we're all getting on this journey together. And that truly is to say, all of us are going through a tremendous, I don't know about all of us, but I'm going to say, if people are listening, you're going through a life-changing chapter right now. Whether it was yesterday, tomorrow, or a month from now, if we're all being aligned and brought together, then this is happening for a reason. And so the tragedies are, decade by decade, but I think the important place to start is in my 40s. My dad killed himself when I was 41. A couple of years later, I dated a man who turned out to be a con man. I'm smiling because it's the story. And he stole every my life savings. And then as I was filing bankruptcy 2 years later, I was out jogging and a woman ran a red light and hit me with her car. And I believe that on July 27th, 1999, when that happened, I was 45. And I believe an angel mattress, because I was surrounded by um, churches and synagogues, saved my life. Yes, I have internal injuries, external injuries, but I lived and I'm in better shape on every level because of that happening 25 years ago, or however long. It's so shocking to me. And I wouldn't be the person I am if these things had not happened. And obviously, if I hadn't survived.
Absolutely. Thank you for laying that out for us. It's a story that carries weight, both, emotional weight and physical weight. And so thank you for sharing it with us. And we will hold that with you as we move through this episode. Mentioned the angel mattress, which is a really beautiful sort of metaphor for what that was. And sometimes, although the angel mattress is nice, it would be nice if Earth School could be a little easier.
We wouldn't learn.
You are correct. I know we wouldn't. And I think that that's important to talk about because in the midst of when it is happening, we have these thoughts of why does this have to be so hard right now? And we look for the escape hatch. And I think it is part of looking for the escape hatch that makes it so hard because we're looking for a way out. We're looking for a way to not have the experience. And the reality is, the experience is going to find us whether we find an escape hatch or not. And so, allowing ourselves this grace and the space to stay present to what is hard and be with it is where that learning that you were talking about happens.
I think what comes to me when you say that, because I think I'm really hard headed, except for when I got hit by the car and landed on my head. I think it softened something, but there is no escape hatch.
Mhm.
I, I, if you find a hatch to escape out of, like you just said, and I'll say it another way, it's going to find you. You're going to fall down like Alice in Wonderland's hole. It probably won't be a tea party, and you're going to have to figure it out. There is no escape. And I think that's the message that's coming to me. And it doesn't matter our ages. I feel like we're in alignment. I'm having conversations with 20 somethings, 40, 60, 70, and it's it's a blessing that it's happening. And I know that's something that is a little bit daunting to accept, but if you weren't going through it, then that means you're not evolving. That means you're stuck and you're still. And so I think to look at this as hard and painful really needs to have a light around it of goodness, like you said, and grace. And that's the real connection. That's the real mm, that is the light in this, is saying, how do I take this next step? What do I do? Well, first of all, or second or fifth, the thing that's been really different for me in these last couple of years, and they've not been easy, is I love myself now, feel emotional admitting it that way so abruptly. I now learn to love myself and appreciate myself, flaws and all, and understand that if I've made it this far and I haven't like crumbled, and I God, source, light, goodness, whatever anybody prays to, it's gotten me here because I've had that faith.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you for that. Is the faith conversation and the faith journey is not an easy one in our deeply divided world. I was just recently having this conversation actually at lunch with a colleague because we were talking about end of life and the different perspectives that we take toward that end of life journey. And, you hear the voices of deeply agnostic people who are saying, this is it, there is nothing else, and you should get your head around that. And what the conversation we were having is faith, if that is what brings light and softens this experience, it does not diminish you anyway. It is what allows you sometimes to face things that maybe are scary. And what do we have to lose? We have nothing to lose by choosing faith because either we transition to the other side and there is eternal energy and we are enveloped in that eternal energy or however you conceptualize that for yourself, or it's eternal sleep. So either way, if we go into it with something that makes us feel good and grounded and connected, that's a beautiful thing.
So you just made me, this may be a little bit of a change, but it's on this place.
Hmm.
I'm no longer scared of change. I'm no longer scared of the unknown. And that's really what you just said. What do I have to lose? I've lost everything. I've been bankrupt. My dad killed himself. My mother's almost 94. She's not I don't know if she'll be here next year. I have a roof over my head. I have beautiful clothes. Is my real estate at a height right now? No. Will it be again? Yeah, it will. So I'm using savings right now to do the things that I'm doing. It doesn't scare me anymore. I
Hmm.
feel that I'm in a flow that I've never been in before in my life. So what I'm trying to say is what we said a few minutes ago is I don't want to live just to live. I want to be challenged. I want to be stepping out of the box. I'm in a coaching program right now, and they're pushing me out of every single box that I come in touch with. And it feels scary is not right. It feels like woo, vibrating from the inside out. My frequency is raising. And those are the things that are coming into alignment for me. So I don't want to be that person, that pleaser, that person that goes along to get along. That I've never felt that way inside, but I know I was that way. In My friends would probably say, no, you've never been and you've always been a weirdo, but I embrace it now and I'm thrilled. And so I really wanted to touch on what you just said because
Hmm.
it's important for your audience to hear that you do not have to put tattoos on your face to be recognized. You do not have to color your hair orange. If you are you, the resonance of the world and of the energy will find you and you will be able to express yourself in a beautiful way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And is the getting reacquainted with ourselves because you were using the metaphor of boxes. right? The boxes that we are put in. And again, my lunchtime conversation was very well timed for this conversation. And we were talking about school, not all the time, but in many instances, school and our broader, institutions and society take this light that we were when we first came to the planet and they put us into boxes, into writing stories for us about who we should be and what we should be. And I was telling the story that really brought this home for me, that my youngest son, when he started junior kindergarten, he was 3 because he is a November birthday. So he was only 3 years old when he started school. And my little boy was, and still is, so full of life and creativity and spark and joy and love. And all of that just poured out of him all the time. So he had big, big energy. And I started noticing his light dimming a little bit after he started school. And when I went to meet the teacher night, there was a box taped on the floor. And his teacher said to me, "That box is for your son."
Oh,
We had to put that there for him because that's the only way he would know how he had to sit and where to sit when it was carpet time. And my heart was broken in that moment, but because I was still so in, and I was an educator at the time still, so I was so in the system. And even though the deepest, like, cellular resonance of my body was like, don't do that to my boy, didn't push back against that system. And I had a similar experience in school at an early age. And so I think we all do. We get put into these boxes for the most part by people who are very well meaning and are thinking that they're going to help us navigate this world. And the truth is, what happens is we end up spending the rest of our life deconstructing the boxes to let ourselves out again.
I was listening to something that just popped into I was listening to one thing and one of those commercials popped in, and it was about the brain. And
Mm,
you can push this blue button and you'll be brought here and do this. But it's about noise frequency and how to raise your frequency. But what I heard is what you just said. And what he said, because there was a lead in, he was talking about how they did a test on, and I don't remember all the statistics, so I'm going to sort of kind of make it up, but it'll make sense. How when children are born and into the X amount of years, they're geniuses, and how that light is diminished. And he was talking about the brain,
mhm,
and but he wasn't going into what you're saying. And so I was thinking back, like, as you spoke about, like, I still have a very effervescent, joyful personality, but I have to tamper it and temper it. And, when I go to New Jersey, where I grew up on the Jersey Shore at the ocean, I feel free. I feel like I just want to rip on that ocean. I mean, sand, right? But when I come back here to Washington, D.C., it's like the
mhm,
people that are in my life, and there's a number of them where I can totally be myself. And it feels like, and I want you to finish your thought, but it feels like the new people who are coming into my life were there before. I didn't know them, but they're bringing out that light that was dormant for a long time. And I believe, like you said, we go through our lives disassembling that box, but I also feel like that joy in me is coming alive again.
mm,
And I'm being led to people like you and to Noemi and to Bob Berg and, the dear friends in my life. And, and, I'm able to express myself in a way that I haven't in a very, very long time.
mhm.
But I've done the work. I'm doing the work. I've searched to find that light, even though I didn't really know what I was searching for until now, as I've evolved and continue to evolve, because then you do and you're gone. Goodbye.
Right. Until the next chapter comes, however we conceptualize that to be. It's so interesting that you're saying that about being connected to people who knew you as you were, even though that circumstance isn't necessarily, it's not the actual circumstance, but because I am feeling the same thing. It's part of the reason why we are moving is that I have been so deeply called to be back with people who knew me at the beginning. And where we are moving, that's where our community of friends who have been with us since my early teen years, that's where they are. And I keep talking about like describing it in this way. I feel like I'm being called home. And it's not just to the place, but
Right.
it is to the community of people. Truth. This is what happens when truth starts coming out. But it is to that community of people who knew me before all of the before all of the things that call us back to like that wild and free and most light-filled version.
But what a gift that they're there
Yes.
to welcome you home.
Yeah.
You know, on the Jersey Shore, it's a feeling of the ocean and the sand. And a lot of the people that were there aren't. You know, my mother's friends are gone. Like, and I want to continue that thought with you and what you're
Mhm.
saying. I don't want to cut you off, but for me, I can go back there, but it's never going to be the same when my mother dies. You know, even though my sister lives close by and that's wonderful. So, quick segue, I spoke with a woman yesterday who I grew up with. I've known her since we were 8 years old. And she said to me, her perception of me and I to her, I'm uh, like
Mhm.
she she said things that blew my mind. And it was not what I thought. And you know, it for some reason a couple of years ago, I felt like I needed to reach out to her. She lives there, but she has houses other places. And the conversation we had for 45 minutes yesterday was life changing because I know that we'll never be out of each other's lives. We're the same age. Our mothers are the same age. Our mothers are both not in good shape. Both of our fathers are gone. There's so many parallels. We're the oldest of our families, and yet we've had very different lives. And so I'm bringing that up, I think, because I've not said this out loud. Going home for me is having like a conversation with her.
Mhm.
That's home. And I don't know where my physical home is meant to be because and I don't have your children and your husband, you know, because right now I'm finding it on the inside and in the spiritual and that sense. And you're covering all of that by going back to where you're going back to. Like you said, it's not just the house and the town, it's the the roots, it's your beingness that you're going back to reground yourself.
And I think the point that you just made is really important in that we make our own home, right? And home has a different connotation for different people. If you had told me in my younger years that this was going to be where I found home, I would not have, I don't think I necessarily would have believed it. Because before my mom died, I grew up in a small town in a very tight community. My parents were leaders in that community. And so that is where I always thought would feel like home. And when she died, it was her. She was what felt like home. And that family that we had that felt like home and the
Yes.
physical space of it. Like when I go and visit people who I love, who still live there, it is the geography that I connect with. It was on Georgian Bay, which is part of the Lake Huron, which is a great lake. It is a really physically beautiful place. And so that fills me up when I go and visit there. And I have been searching a little bit for the sense. Like there is a sense of home with my two boys and my partner. We together have made that. And I thought that it was deeply rooted in this house for a long time. And it is not. Like the ease at which I am experiencing releasing this house, I would have never, ever imagined. but it's because it's not this house that is home. It's the relationships that we have. And it is a deeply supportive relationship network that is what's calling me.
Well, so to that point, last week I was there in New Jersey and I walked from we belong to beach clubs along the Jersey Shore. And we went down early last Sunday morning and it had rained, but the rain was gone. And so the sand was wet and it had been raked. And I had on like jean kind of pants and the top. And I walked on the sand and that was what you just said. I
Mhm.
don't think I had ever had that experience. Maybe when I was a hippie teenager, I don't remember, but feeling my city pedicured feet in the sand was so glorious because it
Mhm.
made me feel rough and tumble and alive again. And I just went and stood in the ocean and there was no one there. Nobody was around. And it really was the most wonderful experience to what you just said. It was that grounding of growing up there. Like that big, a little infant going into the ocean. That's where I'm grounded is in the sand and in the ocean. And that's
Mhm.
what I felt. And it wasn't the people at all. Even though the community's there, not it's a different it felt very bittersweet because it
Yeah.
was attachment and detachment, like what you just said at the same time.
That is it is a really fascinating push and pull, that attachment and detachment. And that's why I think that this is such an important conversation because real estate is not just real estate. Right. It sounds so, businessy and cold, but it is foundation shaking, literally, because you're taking a place that has sometimes it's been nurturing, sometimes it's been a place of tragedy, sometimes it's been you name it, and a different story has been written in place and then it becomes time to sell. So yes, there is like that business interaction part of it, but I feel like that is the smallest part. And I'm wondering with all of your experience with that, how you see those transitions impacting people.
Thank you. I'm so glad you did that full circle because it really is my passion, like from the beginning of this conversation. Everyone's different, as you know. There's brand new young couples who have just started out. They're divorced couples. We in my industry, we meet everyone from every walk of life. And including awful things like foreclosure and things like that, where people are mortified about what they have to go through, or it's a single person or somebody just out of college. And what I know my gift is having the empathy, the compassion, the passion, the sensitivity to people to be able to do what I do. It is transaction. It is a life-changing experience. And it's important for me to help clients and friends, of course, to make that transition. But I have to have your confidence and you have to trust me. Our theme is to know, like, and trust. And I need to get to know you and you need to like and trust me. And, if those things aren't in place, then I should probably bring somebody else in to represent the client,
Right.
because I get really involved. Like I will cry with you and laugh with you and the most of all support you because it is earth shattering to go what you're going through. What I know you've detached from the house, that in itself is huge, but then packing
Yeah, it's a whole other level.
moving and it's not like going and buying a car or a dress. Like then you have new walls and new colors and new ambiance and everything is new, but the basis of it is where do you find your happiness? And that's I don't know if everybody knows that until like that's why I can't say to a client, "Oh, you're going to love this." Because I've walked into houses with people and I'm appalled by the architecture and they love it. And I will not cite examples in case people are listening that
Yeah.
because it's just like, really? But the industry has evolved too because now everybody wants things differently than how they were, 30 years ago. And colors are different and the the spaces are different. And I think the I'm all over the place, but I think the really
No.
cool thing is because of TV shows and designers and people know that they can walk into a space and transform it. And that's very different than parents and what parents did because they just went in and you had your rugs, your carpet, right? It was four walls, but we'll come in and transform things.
Yes. Yeah, that is true. And I was I was hearing you say it's so important to know people that I'm working with. And I think that that really is essential. And I feel very grateful right now. If I have questions, I could ask you, but we also are in different countries. So our laws are very different. But we have an agent who does that, who really spent a lot of time with us, getting to understand our circumstances, what was happening in our lives. And she is so diligent and patient and thoughtful. And so that has made this process so much easier for us. And at this time of transition, and that's why this is so important to the midlife conversation, because it is everything in our worlds that is transitioning in many cases. It's our identity, it's the structure of our family, it's the places that we live, and knowing that there is someone on our team who is taking all of that into consideration to help us make the best possible choice that's been life changing for us with the amount of shift and change we have happening right now.
But I think the important thing is for you to know that agent, I have no idea who the person is. She will he will never go out of your lives. I am always here for my clients and hopefully as time goes on, I let them know that as much as I can, even if it's just a phone call with who do I call to do my roof? We have to do whatever. And even though you're in another country, of course I'm here for you.
Yes, which I appreciate. Yeah. And what you said is true. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
So I will drop her name because I'm happy to do that because she's amazing. Stephanie Miller, berryrealestate.com. She's the greatest. But she sold us this house in
Oh,
2008.
okay.
So has been with us all the way through. And so that relationship that you're talking about and that you build with people over time makes it easier because in many ways it really is like, here, I'm handing you my life and I need you to help me with that.
It's an honor. Like, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what just came to me is if you call me and I had sold you your house and you want to work with me again, it's like, oh my God, thank you. What a huge compliment. That's a gift to have you have really been affected by me that much to call me again. I mean, there's 9 billion people in the world that could sell your house. And I made enough of an impact and impression in your life that you would reach back out. That's a gift. I know
Mhm.
that Stephanie would say the same thing
Yeah.
because she's invested in you or
Yeah.
she didn't do a good job.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I am so glad that you are out there in the world doing this work because it is like being a therapist. It is like being a coach. It is all of those things sort of rolled up into one big ball,
Yeah.
because there is so much that shifts and changes in terms of, sorry, my dog, I will edit that out. um it just it's like breaking down the walls. It's sort of like that is actually like breaking down the walls of the place that you have been in. It's sort of like going back to that deconstructing the box metaphor that we had earlier. We're deconstructing this box of a life that I created here, release us from that so that the next chapter, the something new, can start to.
How beautiful is that? That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, it it's like everything. It's a house is so much bigger than, like I said before, a car or a dress or, a blouse, but it's a maxi version of all of that. And, I work with a lot of people in real estate who buy and sell real estate all the time. They move all the time, because that's what they do. I have not done that. Probably very smart, but they make money doing it. And it's not, I just haven't invested that way. And however, I have hired people. Here's something to say to your audience on a lighter note. If you're in your home and you're not going to move, but everything feels heavy in your house, then hire an organizer. Hire somebody to come in and help you edit. You can redo your furniture. You don't have to buy new furniture. People come in and move it in different places, and you can change the colors and change the look of the furniture. I have a friend who every time she comes here, my furniture is flying through the air, changing the whole, and it's not a lot of pieces. We redid my balcony with some plantings and a couple of inexpensive pillows from Target, and it looks like I have a brand new balcony.
Yeah.
And then she's very bossy, and she's like, "What is this? That?" And so I hired organizers who've come here twice and gutted my closets. And then my friend came who has a clothing store, and she did that with my clothes. But the key is you have to be willing to let go.
Yes.
You have to detach back to the beginning. You have to detach. And she was going, this spring, and she was going through my stuff, and she had sold me everything. So, she was kind of responsible. So
Yes.
like, "Oh, I hate this ruching." I'm like, "Ew, you sold it to me. Like, your fault." And I wasn't ready to get rid of it before. And now I could have sold that many hangers back to TJ Maxx, and I just let so much go. I detached from it, and it didn't matter the cost. I was ready to, and I didn't buy, like, I bought 2 new pieces. Like, people are like, "Oh, she wants to sell you more." I was like, "No, she doesn't. She wants me to wear what I have and look good in it."
Yes.
And it's really cool to do. So if people are listening to this, know that you do not have to make a major move like Lisa. You can do it exactly where you are, and you can transform your life from the inside out.
Yeah, that is such really lovely and important advice because the physical space that we live in is more than just the physical space. It is determines our mood, it determines our energy. And my husband will, he laughs because when we do move, I cannot settle until everything is in its proper place
Right.
because I need my environment to
Yeah.
be calm and soothing and grounded. So he laughs at me because I just go, now he knows, like we respect each other's processes now. So he just lets me do my thing until everything is settled. But yeah, really taking some time to consider what is the space that I want to live in now? Because for many of us, there are different people living in our home or less people living in our home. And it's a time to really start considering, what do I need? What do I really want? And what can I let go?
Well, no, I was gonna say, you saw my mouth like, ooh,
Yeah.
like a fish. Is is letting somebody help you, because we are not, what are you gonna do with all that stuff?
Hmm.
Like, you're being forced to do it because you're moving. And I think that's the message you and I are trying to really share with people is you do not have to move. You don't have to buy a new home. Like you just said, exactly where you are. So when you walk in that door every day, your breath is taken away because your space is, because we live in a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs world.
Yes, we do.
When you come home, you want that environment to just allow you to breathe
Yeah.
and to just be calm. And I think somebody said that to me so many years ago when I was renting in a building that was way more than I had spent. Now I own my apartment. But I remember he said to me, is that extra little bit amount of money going to give you peace of mind? I said, yes. And he said, then you have to do it.
Yes.
And that's like, I open up my closets and it's like, who lives here? Oh my God, all that stuff is gone.
Yeah.
It's like, what was I not thinking that I allowed myself to communicate, to accumulate all that stuff?
Yeah. It really does feel like release,
Yes.
right?
And then you're giving it to somebody else. Let them have all that stuff. Like when people say they're going to flea markets, it's like, you're kidding me. I should be bringing my things to the flea market.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I will say I started when we were doing the purging to put the house on the market. I started in my closet and I spent 3.5 hours in there doing exactly that. Like, what do I actually want? I've also been through a career shift. So there are things in there that metaphorically don't fit anymore because it's the old version of me and not the new version of me. And my husband came home to this mountain of fabric spilling out of the closet. And he was like, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I don't need any of this anymore. And it felt it felt like a little bit of freedom to release myself from that identity that I had held dear for so long, but just didn't fit anymore. And I think we sometimes don't give enough credit to working through our emotional things through our physical things.
What came to me when you were saying the piles of material is I've had friends say, oh, I can't. I spent too much money on that. I'm making it up. Versace. I'm really not making it. But it's like, well, I'm going to say you probably bought that Versace at a discount in some store that had it for sale. That's where you have to not put a financial value, because I'm going to say there's a lot of people listening right now who know exactly what we're talking about. And you spent hundreds of however many dollars because we're women. I mean, I have shoes. It's like, I'm not wearing them. I can't get rid of those. So I'm not perfect at this, people. I haven't quite gone over to the other side yet, but like, I don't really think I'm going to wear those. They're really uncomfortable. They're really high. And some other fool needs to have those because they'll probably wear them. And I'm not going to. And it's hard to let go that have financial value.
Yeah, absolutely. It is hard. And I think naming it is part of the process
Yeah.
of just naming it and going, this is hard for me and it's okay. And maybe today isn't the day I let it go. It doesn't all have to be all at once. So you can give yourself the grace to let it happen over.
Or invite a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whoever over to and make them say, let it go.
Yes, absolutely. Carol, thank you so much for being here today and sharing all of your wisdom. This conversation has really centered the entire thing around the idea of home. And so for listeners, I hope that that is what you take away from this today, is that no matter what your choice is or what you're doing, that you really sit with what feels good for you in the space that you're in now. And if you do happen to be in the real estate market and you're in the Washington area, Carol's contact information will all be in the show notes. So make sure you check her out.
I can help you anywhere in the world. We're an international company. So thank you.
Excellent. Oh, well, even better. So make sure, because it is such an important piece of this puzzle, is having someone who will hold you kindly and with love through these really big decisions. So again, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Lisa. I've loved being with you and your audience.
Electricast.
Hey everyone. Thanks for joining me on this week's episode of Transforming 45. I hope you feel inspired, empowered, and ready to embrace every facet of your midlife journey. If you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. These actions make a world of difference in growing our podcast community. Your support helps us reach much more amazing listeners just like you. And don't forget, please share an episode you love with a friend or with your community. Sharing our stories is what helps our community grow. Keep shining your midlife magic, and I'll catch you next week.